Good day, everybody. My name is Hannah, and I am loving, living, and inspiring through classical music, shared experiences, and lessons learned. In this video, I am discussing 5 things you need to know to get the most out of your voice lesson. So let's go ahead and get started. Thing number 1 to get the most out of your voice lessons is to have the correct materials. So first and foremost is a pencil. You need to have a pencil on you when you go to your lesson. One of the first things that I do is I set my pencil on my music stand so that I'm ready to make a correction or make a specific note that I need so that I don't forget it during the lesson. It's funny because I'll always have a pencil out, and then the one time that I actually need to use it is the time that it's nowhere to be found. I'll look everywhere and I can't find it. So just make sure you always have one of those out because it really helps you and it helps things to move quicker. Also, it's good to have a binder to bring with you because the longer you take lessons, you're going to start accumulating music and it's going to turn into a mess if you have a big wad of papers. So just have something to organize it with. And then the last thing that you want to bring is a water bottle because it's important to stay hydrated. The second thing you can do to get the most out of your voice lessons is to participate in your own learning. Remember that you are investing in these lessons. You're paying money to take these lessons, and you want to make sure that you are fully participating and taking ownership of your own learning so that you can get the most out of it. So in the lesson, if the teacher is asking you, how did that certain sensation feel? Really take the time to think to yourself, how did it feel? Where did I feel it? What does it remind me of? Because doing little things like that are truly going to help you remember and to make improvements going forward. Another thing I will say about participation is to make sure that you are truly hearing what your teacher has to say. Make sure you are listening more than you are speaking. It's great to say, this really worked. Yeah, this really does help, and express how things are going. But you also want to make sure that you're really hearing what your teacher is saying. If they're having to, I know from my own experience, if my teacher has to say the same thing in a couple lessons, then I'm thinking, okay, what do I really need to change so that I can move forward with the next thing? Because you don't want to keep hearing the same advice over and over again. So definitely make sure that you are fully participating and taking ownership of your lessons because you really will notice a difference. The third thing that you can do to get the most out of your voice lessons is to record your lesson. So I use the voice memos on my phone. I believe that's an iPhone feature. I'm not sure if Android phones have that or not. You can also use a separate recorder. I have a Zoom H2N handy recorder. I really don't use it for lessons. I use this more for if I need a recording for an audition that's a little bit higher quality than what an iPhone does. But a voice memo works fine. You can literally hit record and put it in your back pocket and it will still play. One pro tip about this. Make sure that you have put your phone before recording either on airplane mode or do not disturb, because one time I had a lesson that was pretty important for me to have recorded because my voice teacher speaks French natively and I was learning a French piece and I was really looking forward to having all of those little tidbits and advice and the correct pronunciations on the recording. I remember thinking, yes, this is awesome. I have all of this stuff, so I know how to pronounce this really well when I get home. Only to find out that when I got in the car, I only about 5 minutes of that lesson recorded because I received a spam call in the middle of the lesson and it stopped my recording. I keep my phone on silent so I didn't hear that I was getting a call. So just make sure that if you do record with a voice memo, you make it so that you're not going to get interrupted from a phone call. The fourth thing you need to do to get the most out of your lessons is to prepare. So prepare means a couple different things. Number 1, I know you don't want to hear this, but you need to practice. Truly, I mean, I understand myself when I take a lesson and, the week just kind of goes by quickly and I don't have time to really think about practicing. I feel like I waste my money though when I go to my next lesson because I didn't improve or have time to look at the things that I was given advice to improve upon before that. And so then when you go to the next lesson, you're probably going to be told the same advice because you didn't really make any changes. So just make sure that you actually are practicing. And when you go to your lesson, make sure, you have an idea of like, okay, what was I working on? What do I want to work on? If you're a new student, your teacher is probably going to guide the lesson for you and kind of decide, okay, let's work on this right now. But if you're someone who's been taking lessons for a while, the teacher might ask you, what do you want to work on today? And if you're kind of like, oh, well, I don't know, I have this, I have that, then it kind of shows the teacher that you're not really taking ownership of your own learning. So if you have an idea and you're like, well, actually, I want to do this today because I was working on it, or I really want to improve this piece today because, this high note, every time I do it, I have trouble with it, and I just want to see if there's anything that you can hear that can help me accomplish that better. That will really show the teacher that you have practiced and that you are taking ownership of your learning. Another thing with preparing is if you have music, make sure that you always bring it. Like, or let's say you have a new piece and you were sent the piece or asked to make a copy of it, just make sure you do that, because if you don't, sometimes your teacher, it's like, well, I was planning on us doing this today, and so they might spend your lesson time printing it off for you because you need it, or doing something to give it to you when you could have been using that time to actually improve, because I would consider that a waste. So like, I know when I take lessons and I have a teacher give me a new piece, I really make sure I have made 2 copies, one for myself and one for her as well. Or if I have an accompanist, I make sure that other piece can be used for them. So definitely do that. And the last thing in regards to preparing is to have any questions that you have. Really take that time to use with your teacher to get answers to the questions that you had while you were practicing. Maybe if you're new to music in general, maybe you don't know what a specific musical symbol means. So take time in that lesson to be like, well, I see this and I'm not quite sure what this means. Have those questions, because when you are on your own, because eventually your goal is to be on your own and to know your own singing and your own voice. When you're on your own, you're able to use that wisdom that you got from those lessons to figure things out for yourself. And the 5th and final thing that I have for you to get the most out of your voice lessons is to keep a journal, to keep a specific journal for voice lessons. You can do this right after your lesson, especially if you haven't recorded, like literally right after, even in the car or once you get home. Before doing anything else, write down the biggest takeaways from that lesson and things that you improved. You might also want to have your music out so you can remember what they were referring to, and write down all of that stuff because you'll remember it so much better, and then actually refer back to it when you go to practice. So let's say the same day you took the lesson, you journal, and then 2 days later you go to practice, open that journal and reread the notes of what was from that practice session, and then make sure you're actually fixing those things in your practice so that you're not making the same mistakes later on. If you recorded your lesson, that is just another awesome way of remembering what you did in that lesson, because what you can do is, if you don't want to journal right after your lesson, maybe a couple days later, you can re-listen to your lesson with your journal out and your music, and then, sorry. Anyway, as I was saying, you can take your music out, the journal, and whatever you recorded your stuff on, and write down everything that was said that sticks out to you that you need to improve, and also point out the things that you did well so that you can keep doing those things. And that really, I mean, that's going to really stick in your brain what you need to work on. So, because think about it, you're covering, okay, you experienced the lesson, so you actually physically did it, and you're listening to the lesson, so you're learning through listening, and you're writing it down, so you're learning through writing. So there's no way that's not going to stick with you if you are covering all of those things. If journaling is something that you are interested in, I actually do have a video on journaling. I believe it's called How I Transformed Myself Through Journaling. And it covers how I handled rejection through journaling, how much progress I made, and how I was able to get the opportunities that I was seeking because I had taken the time to really track my progress through documenting it in my journal. So you should definitely check that video out. Let me know in the comments if you take voice lessons and what are some of the things that you do to get the most out of them, because I'm truly interested in learning and being a lifelong student myself. I believe I forgot to mention in the beginning that I am a teacher myself, but the perspective that I was coming from was from being a student, because I'm always trying to be the best that I can be, and these are just things that I have learned from that. So if you enjoy this content or you find value in it and you know anyone who would be interested in this type of stuff, then please share it with them, and also subscribe, because I want to get to know people and align with people who vibe with me so that we can truly grow together. And that's all I have for today. So I hope you like it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.